I was halfway through folding laundry when my phone buzzed. The name flashing on the screen sent a jolt through me. Daniel Carter. I hadn't seen that name in years. Not since college. Not since the summer I buried every feeling I'd ever had for him beneath the weight of commitment and time. I hesitated, then answered. Hey, his voice came through warm, familiar, like a song I hadn't realized I missed. I hope this isn't weird.
I was thinking about you.
There was a pause. My heart beat faster than I cared to admit. I'm in town for a few days. Thought maybe we could catch up? I glanced at the wedding photo on the mantel. My husband, Aaron, smiling with his arm around me. That photo was 5 years old. We hadn't looked that happy in a long time. Oh, I said, trying to keep my tone even. It's been, wow, a long time. Too long, Daniel replied gently. Just coffee. Nothing more. That's how it starts, isn't it? Harmless. We exchanged details. As I hung up, a strange current moved through me. Not guilt. Not yet. Just the sensation of waking up from a long, dull sleep. I told myself it didn't mean anything. I told myself I was just curious. But I knew better. Aaron was late again that evening. He didn't call. Didn't text. When he finally walked through the door, his eyes were glued to a spreadsheet on his phone. Dinner's in the microwave, I said. Thanks, he mumbled, not looking up. I watched him eat in silence, wondering when we'd become strangers. There was no anger between us, no betrayal. Just distance. Like two people standing on opposite ends of a frozen lake, afraid to move, afraid to fall through. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I remembered the last time I saw Daniel. It was graduation. He was standing under the oak tree outside the library, watching me walk away with Aaron's hand in mine. He never said goodbye. He just let me go.
And I never asked him why.
Now, years later, with a single call, he was back, uninvited, unexpected, and yet not unwelcome. The next morning, I found myself choosing my outfit more carefully than usual. A soft blouse, subtle perfume. Not for Aaron. For someone who used to know the sound of my laugh before I made it. As I stepped out into the cool spring air, I told myself again, just coffee. But something in me whispered otherwise. Something in me already knew. This wasn't just a meeting. It was a moment waiting to unfold. And deep down, I could feel it beginning. Daniel was already at the cafe when I arrived, seated by the window, his fingers curled around a mug. He looked up as I stepped in, and for a moment, I saw the boy he used to be, the easy smile, the thoughtful eyes, but there was something else now. A quiet weight in his expression. Time had done its work on both of us. You look exactly the same, he said as I sat across from him. I laughed, more nervously than I meant to. You've always been a terrible liar. We talked like old friends, a little too easily. Like there hadn't been 10 years of silence between us. Like he hadn't once broken my heart without even saying a word. So, married, he said after a while, sipping his coffee. I nodded. 5 years. Aaron's steady. Reliable. I didn't add. Predictable, distracted, gone even when he's home. Daniel studied me for a moment, then looked down at his hands. That sounds like something you tell yourself when you're trying to believe it. I bristled. What's that supposed to mean? He shrugged. Nothing. Just you always wanted more than steady. You wanted alive. I remember that about you. His words lingered like perfume. I hated how easily he could reach into places I'd boarded up. But he wasn't wrong. Once, I craved a life that made my heart race. Somewhere along the way, I settled for calm seas. No storms. No surprises. We talked for over an hour. He told me about his consulting work, his travel, his failed engagement. I told him half-truths about my job, my marriage, my life. But somewhere between the laughter and the memories, I stopped noticing the time. When I finally glanced at my phone, 2 missed calls from Aaron blinked back at me. I should go, I said, standing. Daniel stood too. Of course. But he hesitated. I'd like to see you again. If that's okay. I didn't respond right away. I should have said no. I should have walked away, locked the door he'd reopened. But I didn't. Maybe I whispered, and turned before he could see my expression. All the way home, guilt gnawed at me. But so did something else. A warmth I hadn't felt in years. Not lust, not even love. Just being seen. That night, Aaron didn't ask where I'd been. He barely looked up from his laptop. We sat in the same room, living in parallel worlds. And when I finally went to bed, a message lit up my phone. "Daniel, it was really good to see you." I stared at the screen, heart caught between loyalty and longing. I didn't reply, but I didn't delete the message either. It began innocently enough. Text messages that bled into long phone calls, coffee dates that turned into late lunches. I told myself we were just catching up, that I was allowed a friend. But friends don't wait breathlessly for your reply. Friends don't memorize the way your lips twitch when you're trying not to cry. Daniel made me feel alive again, and I hated how much I craved it. At home, Aaron had become a ghost in a well-tailored suit. We moved around each other like polite roommates. No fights, no passion, just the numbing hum of routine. I tried to close the gap between us. Cooked his favorite meals, initiated conversations, even touched his arm while passing. But he was always somewhere else, buried in work, in silence, in whatever life he was building that didn't include me. One evening, Daniel met me outside my office. It had been a terrible day. My manager had criticized my performance in front of the team, and Aaron hadn't returned a single text. Daniel stood there with that knowing look, holding a small box. "I got you something," he said, handing it over. Inside was a silver pendant in the shape of a quill. "You used to say you'd write a novel one day," he murmured. "I thought maybe you'd forgotten." Something inside me broke open. I didn't mean to kiss him. It just happened, sudden, trembling, electric. And I didn't stop it. We didn't go back to his place that night. We didn't need to. That single moment had already redrawn the map of everything I knew. A line had been crossed, sharp and irreversible. The guilt came in waves. I avoided Aaron's eyes. I couldn't sleep. I flinched when he touched me. Still, I met Daniel again. And again. Each meeting felt like air after drowning. We never spoke about love, never dared name what we were doing. But we knew. One night, I returned home to find Aaron waiting in the kitchen. No laptop. No distractions. Just him. And a silence, so full it pressed on my lungs. "Who is he?" he asked, voice steady. My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" Aaron held up my phone. The screen was cracked. The message was open. I didn't need to read it. I knew which one he'd seen. "I trusted you," he said simply. There was no shouting. No accusations. Just the quiet devastation of something collapsing. "I'm sorry," I whispered, tears spilling. He nodded once, eyes glassy, then turned away, like he couldn't stand to look at the woman standing in his kitchen. That night, I slept on the couch. The house felt colder than it ever had. And somewhere across the city, Daniel texted again.
"Daniel, still thinking about you."
I didn't answer.
But my heart did.
Aaron didn't yell. He didn't pack a bag or slam the door. He simply withdrew, quietly, completely. Days passed in a cold, uneasy rhythm. We shared the same space, but not the same life. He moved through the house like a shadow, barely acknowledging me. His silence was the punishment, and it stung more than rage ever could. I ended things with Daniel the following week. We met in the same cafe where it all began. The light was dimmer, or maybe it just felt that way. He reached for my hand, but I pulled it back. "This was never real," I said softly. "It was just a moment. A beautiful lie I wanted to believe." He didn't fight me. He nodded, offered a sad smile, and whispered, "I'll miss you." And then he walked away, again just like he had all those years ago. Only this time I didn't follow. In the days that followed, I tried to piece things back together. I apologized to Aaron, sincerely, without excuse. He listened, but he didn't speak much. He wasn't cruel, just distant, like I was a guest in a house we once built together. "I don't know if I can trust you again," he said one night, finally breaking the silence. "I don't expect you to," I replied. "But I'm still here. And I want to try." We didn't have a dramatic reunion. No tears on the doorstep. Just the long, painful process of two people deciding whether they still belong to each other, or if they ever really had. Some nights, I'd lie awake beside him, staring at the ceiling, wondering how one moment could unravel so much. It hadn't started with passion or deceit. It had started with a phone call. One name lighting up a screen. One choice to say yes. I never saw Daniel again. He became a memory, one I visit occasionally, not with longing, but with quiet understanding. He reminded me of the parts of myself I had buried. And in doing so, he also revealed the cracks I'd ignored for too long. Life didn't return to normal. It reshaped itself, slower, more fragile. Aaron and I went to therapy. We talked about things we had never dared say before, about loneliness, resentment, fear. Not everything healed, but something softened. And me, I learned that longing doesn't justify betrayal. That being seen by someone else doesn't mean you've been invisible at home. It just means you've stopped looking in the right direction. Sometimes I still hear Daniel's voice in my head, soft and familiar. But now, it doesn't stir the same ache. It just reminds me how easily we can lose ourselves and how hard it is to come back. It began with a call, and it became something I could never forget.